Hello everyone, in this video we are going to learn about third ventricle. Here you can see the diagram of the third ventricle, right? Now third ventricle, it is a median cleft between the two thalami and the cavity is lined by the ependyma. Communications of third ventricle. Anterosuperiorly on each side, it communicates with the lateral ventricle through the interventricular foramina, right? Through the interventricular foramina, or you can also call it as the foramen of Monro. Through this foramen, it will communicate to the lateral ventricle on each side, right? Anterosuperiorly. Okay. This foramen, it is bounded anteriorly by the column of fornix and posteriorly by the tubercle of the thalamus. Postero-inferiorly in the median plane, it communicates with the fourth ventricle through the cerebral aqueduct, right? You know, this is the cerebral aqueduct through which third ventricle will now communicate with the fourth ventricle postero-inferiorly, right? So that is about the communications. Means anterosuperiorly it is communicating with the lateral ventricle and posterior-inferiorly with the fourth ventricle through the cerebral aqueduct. Recesses. Next is the recesses of the third ventricle. There are 4 recesses. They are present in the third ventricle. Recesses are nothing but they are the extensions of the cavity, and these are 4 recesses. One is the suprapineal. You can see here the suprapineal recess is shown, right? Second is the pineal recess, right? That you can see here. This is the pineal recess, this is the suprapineal recess, right? Then the next is the infundibular. Here infundibular, that is in this pituitary stalk, right? So this infundibular recess, and the last is this, the optic recess, that you can see here. This area is showing the optic recess. Okay, so these are the 4 recesses, that is the extensions of the cavities that you can see in the third ventricle, right? Next is the most important aspect, that is the boundaries of the third ventricle. In boundaries, first we will take the anterior wall. Now the anterior wall we have already done with some of the aspects. Now you will be clear with this diagram also, right? In the anterior wall you can see it is formed by lamina terminalis, right? This area it forms the lamina terminalis, right? And then you have the anterior commissure. This is the anterior commissure that is shown here, and the anterior column of the fornix, right? So this all is the anterior boundary or the anterior wall, you can see lamina terminalis, anterior commissure, and the anterior column of fornix. The 2 columns of the fornix, they diverge, pass downwards and backwards, and sink into the lateral wall of the third ventricle to reach the mammillary body. Next is the posterior wall. The posterior wall, it is formed by pineal body, right? Here you can see the pineal body shown, right? Then posterior commissure and the cerebral aqueduct. Okay, this is the beginning of the cerebral aqueduct, right? So pineal body, then posterior commissure and cerebral aqueduct forms the posterior wall of the third ventricle. The roof of the third ventricle, it is formed by the ependyma lining the undersurface of the tela choroidea of the third ventricle. Here you can see the tela choroidea is shown, right? So that forms the part of the roof, right? It is the ependyma lining the undersurface of the tela choroidea of the third ventricle, and the choroid plexus of the third ventricle, it projects downwards from the roof. At the junction of the roof with the anterior and the lateral walls, there are interventricular foramina, right? So interventricular foramina lies at the junction of the roof with the anterior and the lateral walls. Okay. Next is the floor of the third ventricle. It is formed by the hypothalamic structures, right? You know, here is the hypothalamus. This all is the hypothalamic region, right? And so these structures, they are forming the floor is formed by the hypothalamic structures. First is the optic chiasma. Here you can see the optic chiasma is shown, right? Then tuber cinereum, this tuber cinereum, right? Then comes the infundibulum, You can see the infundibulum is shown here, this. Then comes the posterior perforated substance, right? Mammillary body, first mammillary body, then posterior perforated substance, and then comes this area of the midbrain, that is the tegmentum part. Okay, tegmentum part of the midbrain, right? We'll see again. The floor is formed by the hypothalamic structures, right, starting from the optic chiasma, right? Then comes the infundibulum, then tuber cinereum, mammillary body, posterior perforated substance, and tegmentum of the midbrain, right? You can see one more diagram to understand it better here, right? This you can see again, optic chiasma is shown here, right? Then will be the infundibulum here, right? Then this is the mammillary body, posterior perforated substance, and the tegmentum of the midbrain. Okay. Next is the lateral wall. Before that, at the junction of the floor with the anterior wall, there is an optic recess, right? We have already seen the optic recess in the previous diagram, right? Yes, here you can see the optic recess is already shown, right? This is the optic recess. It lies at the junction of the floor, right? This floor with the anterior wall. Next is the lateral wall. It is formed by the medial surface of the thalamus in its postero-superior part and the hypothalamus in its entero-inferior part, right? The postero-superior part thalamus, entero-inferior part hypothalamus, right? And by the hypothalamic sulcus. You can see the sulcus, right? This hypothalamic sulcus which separates the thalamus from the hypothalamus. The sulcus extends from the interventricular foramina to the cerebral aqueduct. Okay, so that is about the lateral wall. Now there are some points to be noted that the interthalamic adhesions connects the medial surfaces of the two thalami and crosses the ventricular cavity. Here you can see an interthalamic adhesion is shown, right? This red colored. Now this is present on the medial surface, right? This is on the medial surface of the both the thalamus, and it crosses the ventricular cavity. The habenular stria lies at the junction of the roof and the lateral wall, and the two stria they join posteriorly at the habenular commissure. Right? It is not shown in this diagram. We'll see one another. Yeah, here already you have seen this diagram previously also. And here you can see the habenular commissure is shown here, right? So this habenular stria or the habenular commissure lies at the junction of the roof and the lateral wall. The columns of the fornix, as already indicated, runs downwards and backwards to reach the mammillary bodies, and the columns lie beneath the lateral wall of the ventricle, right? These columns of the fornix, they will run downwards and forwards to reach the mammillary bodies, right? And the column lies beneath the lateral wall of the ventricle. Okay, so that is all about the boundaries of the third ventricle, right? We have seen the anterior and posterior wall, roof, floor, lateral wall, right? And medially they both this interthalamic adhesion is connecting both the medial walls of the thalamus. Okay, so that is all about the third ventricle. Next is the clinical anatomy. In clinical anatomy, we can say the third ventricle is a very narrow space which is easily obstructed by the local brain tumors or by the developmental defects. The obstruction leads to the raised intracranial pressure in the adults and the hydrocephalus in infants. Tumors in the lower part of the third ventricles gives rise to the hypothalamic syndrome, right? Here, if there is a tumor in the lower part, it gives rise to the symptoms related to the hypothalamus, and you know the functions of the hypothalamus, right? So it will give rise to hypothalamic symptoms like diabetes insipidus, obesity, sexual disturbances, disturbances of sleep, hyperglycemia and glycosuria. The site of the obstruction can be found out by the CT scan or the MRI scan, where the third ventricle is seen normally as a narrow vertical midline shadow. Dilatation of the third ventricle would indicate obstruction at the lower level, that is at the level of the cerebral aqueduct. If the obstruction is in the third ventricle, then both the lateral ventricles will be dilated symmetrically. Obstruction at an interventricular foramina causes unilateral dilatation of the lateral ventricle of that side. Okay, so that is all about the clinical anatomy related to the third ventricle. Bye for now.